Hey guys, and welcome back to the 4545 podcast. I'm sorry it's been a whole week since I've uploaded a video. I went on spring break vacation this past week, and I tried to record some episodes while I was there, but the Wi-Fi in the Airbnb that I was staying at wasn't that good. So my apologies for that. But now I'm back in my natural habitat, back to doing what I do best, and let's just get right into it on this next episode of the 4545. This episode is primarily going to be about the FA Cup and the Premier League action that happened over the weekend. I know there was a lot of La Liga action, but there were so many different games just jumbled up together, and trying to cover them all in this returning video would be a little bit confusing. I kind of want to get back on that schedule. And right now there's an international break, so it's easy for me to kind of just ease my way back into the action. I promise for the next couple of videos that it's going to be more, casual, laid back, informative about what's going on with transfers, what's going on with players, teams, and all sort of things like that. Just because this international break gives me a time to kind of look around and see the other options and see the other things that I can talk about. And hopefully I can involve you guys as well. I'm really trying to involve as many soccer fans as possible because that's the whole point of this channel. So let's just jump right into the action with the FA Cup that happened over the weekend. We have Manchester City, Manchester United, Chelsea, Leicester City, Everton, Southampton, Bournemouth, and Sheffield United that made up the quarterfinal teams. And now going into the semifinal stages, we have Manchester City versus Chelsea and Leicester City versus Southampton. So let's start the discussion by talking about Leicester City versus Manchester United, where Leicester City beat Manchester United by 3-1 at the King Power Stadium to move on to the semifinal stage and face Southampton. Let's begin by talking about Leicester City. They played way better than Manchester United, performed way better in every aspect of the game. Their high press made it difficult for Manchester United to play out of the back, which is something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has kind of implemented in his players in the past couple of weeks. I know Harry Maguire likes to be on the ball. When the keeper gives him the ball, he likes to distribute to either the left back or the center defensive mid. And in this game, Leicester City were not having any of that. They were pressing high, getting up the field, getting in the United players' faces, and it made it difficult for them to kind of pass it around the back and build momentum in a short passing game, forcing Manchester United to go long. We could first talk about the first goal, which was Kelechi Iheanacho, and it was a terrible mistake by Manchester United all around. It started, as I said, with Manchester United trying to play out from the back. Dean Henderson gives Harry Maguire the ball, and Maguire kind of takes his time. He strolls on the ball. And there's options to the left, there's options to the right, and like I said, there's options in that center defensive mid position. But unfortunately, like I said, Leicester City were pressing high. Maguire decides to pass it to Fred, who's being chased by two Leicester players. Fred ultimately tries to give it back to Dean Henderson, but the Leicester City attacker was in position, took the ball, took it around the keeper, and scored in an empty net. So from a Leicester City standpoint, fantastic goal. They did exactly what they needed to do. Pressing high, pressing the Manchester United players and forcing them to make a mistake, which is what they did. From a Manchester United standpoint, absolutely terrible. It was terrible from Harry Maguire in the first place to kind of give Fred the ball in just a bad position. But Fred, when you're in that position, being forced back to your own goal with two players behind you, you have two choices. You either pass it back to the player that gave you the ball if he's not marked, or you pass it to your keeper, which is what he tried to do, or you boot the ball clear. There's no excuse for how the ball ended up straight to Kelechi Iheanacho. And of course, he's a striker, and his job is to finish, and that's exactly what he did. I think it was a poor game from Fred all around, but we'll get into that very shortly. So moving on from Leicester's goal, Manchester United tried to respond, getting into the game ever so slowly. They kind of made it a habit this season to start games very slowly, especially away games. And this was no different. They came into this game lethargic. The manager's tactical setup was poor. It didn't seem like he was trying to go for the win. Maybe trying to force extra time, who knows? But Manchester United slowly grew back into the game. Being 1-0 down, you kind of have to chase the game. And they found the eventual equalizer through Mason Greenwood after some lovely play by Paul Pogba and Donny van de Beek combining to give Mason Greenwood a tap-in on the other end of the field. This is 1-1. This is going into halftime. And Manchester United had kind of the momentum and the advantage going into half. after leveling the game. Coming into the second half, Manchester United were not ready at all. Leicester City had the front foot advantage, even though they went into the half, conceding a goal, making it 1-1. Yuri Tielemans takes the ball from half field, a little 1-2 with Wilfred Ndidi, or I believe it was Kelechi Iheanacho, and it completely took out the Manchester United midfielders. Fred, Matic, I can't remember who else was chasing back, but it was poor. It was terrible defending from Manchester United. Tielemans goes up the field pretty much uncontested until around the penalty area, and a lovely shot, take nothing away from the shot, but it was bad defense. It was bad awareness. It was just bad all around for Manchester United, and it kind of summed up the game as a whole, especially when they conceded the third goal. Manchester United didn't really look like they had a way out. Leicester City had a game plan. They stuck to their game plan. They stuck to that tight defensive core, and the counter-attacking of Jamie Vardy and Iheanacho was too deadly for Maguire and Lindelof. The third goal came from a corner, a set piece, which McTominay didn't really handle all too well. Iheanacho was at the back post unmarked, and rightly so. He scored a second goal of the game, and he's been on fire. Leicester City, they played well. They did what they had to do, and now they're in the semifinals of the FA Cup for, I believe, it's been over 50 plus years. So wonderful achievement to Leicester City. They did a fantastic job against kind of a lethargic Manchester United side. But for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it's another problem that seems to kind of follow him everywhere he goes. He just can't win a trophy. He's managing one of the biggest clubs, or so they say, one of the biggest clubs in the world in Manchester United. And he's been at the club for about 3 years now and hasn't won anything. All the other managers that were fired previously before him at least won a trophy. Doesn't matter the size or the stature of the trophy, they won a trophy. They actually have some silverware to their time at Manchester United. And he recently made a comment about trophies being an ego thing, and it just kind of screams of a manager that doesn't know what he's doing. In the game, he took off Pogba and Van de Beek and kept on Fred. Fred, who probably had, throughout the whole game, a 2 or 1 out of 10 performance. Waited until the 80th minute to replace him when Manchester United were already 3-1 down. So it kind of speaks and kind of to his mindset that he's lost. He doesn't really know what he's doing. And I've been saying this in the past couple of videos I've talked about Manchester United. He's clueless. I don't think he's going to lead them to a trophy. He might eventually get the sack if he doesn't win the Europa League at the end of this season, because Manchester City have run away with the Premier League. There's no other competitions that Manchester United are in besides the Europa League and the Premier League, and the Premier League is too far gone. So there's a chance that he might get fired at the end of the season. And just shortly before I move on to the next set of games, both Leicester City and Manchester United players, fans, and spectators alike were all notified at halftime who either one of those teams would be playing in the semifinals. They understood that the draw had been done during halftime, where Manchester City was going to face Chelsea, and the winner of this game would play Southampton. So we were talking about the competitive integrity, just like Taylor Twellman said on the ESPN broadcast. The competitive integrity, it's different when you kind of find out who you're going to play in the next round, if you make it to the next round during halftime. And it was clear that Leicester City, they saw this and they were like, you know what, let's take the game to them. Manchester United did not want to take the game to Leicester. They kind of sat off, played lethargic, like I said, and it worked in their favor. So once again, congratulations to Leicester City, making it to the semifinal round for the first time in 50 plus years. And they're facing Southampton, which we'll get into very shortly. So let's just move on to the next set of games, which was Manchester City versus Everton. The Citizens ended up beating Everton by 2-0. And what was kind of a nothing game until the 80th minute. Manchester City are the type of team that likes to keep possession. Everton are not good against teams that have more possession than them. And it kind of showed. There's not really much I can talk about in this game, except for the fact that Ilkay Gundogan continues his goal-scoring record, which he's now scored 16 goals in all competitions for Manchester City from midfield. A player that has just kind of found this insane run of form, He's more confident than Jamie Vardy right now. He's more confident than Anthony Martial. He's more confident than Timo Werner, maybe even Roberto Firmino, Sadio Mane, scoring way more goals than they have this season. And it's something that Manchester City kind of needs to keep an eye on. I think at this stage of the season with Ilkay Gundogan scoring so many goals, there's a way or a chance that he could probably be pushed up further into a number 10 position, kind of where Kevin De Bruyne operates, or where Phil Foden likes to run around and free roam around the pitch. I think Gundogan could play that position, and Manchester City have Rodri at their disposal. They have Kevin De Bruyne, they have Fernandinho. So there's defensive cover for Gundogan to kind of just go up the field with players like Raheem Sterling on the left and Riyad Mahrez on the right. There's so much creativity at Manchester City's disposal, and they can definitely exploit this in the Champions League when they face the bigger and better teams. But we'll just have to wait and see. This game finished 2-0. I'm not going to talk about it too much, only because we already know what to expect from Manchester City. No disrespect to Everton, they're a great side, but I don't think they've even come close to beating Manchester City this season, except for maybe in the Premier League. But even then, Manchester City are dominant. They win games convincingly, and if they don't win them convincingly, then teams kind of just have one or two chances against them. So 2-0 was the result. Manchester City going on to the semifinals. Let's talk about the next game. Moving on to the next game, we have Chelsea versus Sheffield United. And this is an interesting game. Chelsea beat Sheffield United by 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. Convincing win, it sounds like, but that's not really the case. With Sheffield United having a lot of chances, but not having the quality to finish those chances. And when Chelsea go up the field, they're not as convincing as you may seem or as you may think for them to be. Christian Pulisic is a talent, a world-class talent in the making. That one we've already confirmed, we've already realized. Him on the right wing or him on the left wing in this Chelsea lineup makes them 10 times better. He's creative, he's fast, he has a drive to go towards the goal. He knows exactly where he is, his awareness, where the players are. One thing I likes about Pulisic maybe is, his finishing is lacking, but he's still only 22 years old, 23 years old. That'll come with experience, with game time. I think he deserves game time. And he was eventually voted man of the match in this game. Chelsea, the first goal, an own goal by a Sheffield United defender. And then they scored the second goal in the 90th minute through Hakim Ziyech. All in all, just another one of those Chelsea performances that don't really leave you with too much confidence going forward. But on the defensive end, they're solid. They're rock solid. Edouard Mendy was a great signing. Kepa, I don't know how many more chances he's going to get, or if he's just going to remain the backup, or if he's going to just eventually leave. I don't see him, playing ahead of Mendy in the big games. However, he did play well in this one. He's not going to get the opportunity to play against Manchester City, I believe, or whatever big team Chelsea have remaining in the Premier League. But credit to Chelsea, they're still unbeaten after Thomas Tuchel has joined the club. They still haven't lost, but they have some tough fixtures ahead. They have Porto in the Champions League, and they have Manchester City in the semifinals. So it's going to be interesting to see how they cope, see if that unbeaten record can still stretch on. Manchester City, I don't think they can beat. Porto, they have a very good chance. Chelsea has a solid team with many talented players, like I said. So we'll just have to wait and see and see what, tactical decisions Tuchel may make. Maybe if that involves, including Pulisic and Ziyech more, or maybe Callum Hudson-Odoi and Pulisic. But I do think Pulisic deserves to start. I think he's a fantastic player, and he's going to be one to watch for the very near future. The last game to discuss in the FA Cup this weekend was Southampton versus Bournemouth. Southampton, who are kind of having a very rough patch in the Premier League right now, and a Bournemouth side who were just relegated from the Premier League, facing off in the quarterfinals. And the score finished 2-0 to Southampton, with Nathan Redmond scoring both of the goals to see the Saints on to the semifinals where they face Leicester City. I think they'd much rather have that than facing Manchester United, but at the same time, Manchester United and Leicester City are kind of on similar wavelengths right now. In terms of squad depth, squad talent, Manchester City have that, better squad, but Leicester City are a unit. They work together, they train hard together, they sacrifice for one another. I think Leicester City is probably the team that Southampton wanted, like I said. Because of that 9-0 drubbing that happened last year against Southampton, they probably will want revenge against Leicester City. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that that just concludes the FA Cup discussion. Manchester United dropping out was probably the biggest headline, but they dropped out to a deserved Leicester team that played way better than them and outplayed them, and all around Manchester United do not deserve to go through, just like they didn't deserve to go through the next round of the Champions League. We'll just have to wait and see where that develops. Chelsea are through, Manchester City are through, and Southampton are through. So it's going to be a great semi-final, and hopefully we can see a great final. I think for the final, I'm just going to say it's going to be Leicester City versus Manchester City. I think when you look at the final four teams, those are the two best teams right now. I can't really see Chelsea beating Manchester City. I can't really see Southampton beating Leicester City. But this is football, and you never really know until the game happens. So now, moving on from the FA Cup action, we had some Premier League action over the weekend, with Arsenal playing against West Ham in another London derby, and Tottenham facing off against Aston Villa, who have kind of struggled in the past couple of months actually, sliding down the table, while Tottenham are steadily climbing back up the table, even though their performances have not been as good either. So first, let's talk about Arsenal versus West Ham, which finished as a 6-goal thriller, with both teams sharing the points in a 3-3 draw that kind of excited all fans, Arsenal fans, West Ham fans, and neutrals alike. First, we can talk about West Ham taking a 3-0 lead against the Gunners, which is totally unexpected, but the way West Ham have been playing recently, it's been forward, it's been positive. I think this season they've been everyone's surprise team, and in this game they showed that they're not really a team to be messed with. They recently acquired Jesse Lingard, and he looks like a rejuvenated player. He's scoring goals every game, or at least assisting a goal every game. West Ham, although, looking at their squad, don't seem that threatening or menacing compared to the top 6. They gave Arsenal a run for their money, scoring 3 goals in the first 35 minutes, I believe. The scores for West Ham being Jesse Lingard, Jared Bowen, and Mikel Antonio, giving them a 3-0 lead. Very shocking, but pretty deserving considering the run of play. Arsenal did not seem like they were really going into the game with the intensity, with the fire that they wanted to take to West Ham. And West Ham punished them severely. But going down by 3-0 was not something that Arsenal had anticipated, and they responded promptly, getting higher up the field, pressing West Ham back, and eventually got an equalizer through an Alexandre Lacazette shot that was going wide but deflected into the goal to give them a 3-1 at, kind of disadvantage, but a better scoreline than 3-0 going into halftime. Coming out of halftime, Callum Chambers, Martin Odegaard were the key players for Arsenal, and Chambers did everything that he could going down that right flank. And the second goal came from one of his crosses, where he drilled it into the box, and the West Ham player unfortunately tapped it into his own goal to make it 3-2. The third goal came from a similar source, just like the first two, with another beautiful cross from an Arsenal player in Nicolas Pepe, but this time it found the head of Alexandre Lacazette, who equalized to make it 3-3, and that's how the game finished. It was a crazy, crazy game. Arsenal's key players were Martin Odegaard, Alexandre Lacazette, and Callum Chambers going down that right wing. Arsenal, 10th place, but promising signs. Promising going forward. The defense needs working, like I said. They need a world-class center back. Even if Hella Bechterin leaves, they have options at right back, but they do need a world-class right back or a very good right back at the least. I think in midfield, they're solid. If they're able to acquire Martin Odegaard on a permanent deal, that'd be a fantastic signing. He's everything that they need in that number 10 position, replacing Mesut Ozil, Bukayo Saka, Gabriel Martinelli, and Mel Smith-Rowe. Those are players for the future that are kind of untouchable. But maybe another world-class striker would be needed, either Lacazette or Aubameyang. But I think Arsenal fans and the Arsenal staff would much rather have Aubameyang in there. So maybe Lacazette moves on, gets traded for another striker. We'll have to see what happens in the summer transfer window. but just a thrilling game, a 3-3 result, where both teams will probably be looking and saying that they should have taken a couple more chances or defended a little bit better. Now moving on to the last game we're going to discuss on this podcast today, which is Tottenham Hotspur versus Aston Villa. The Spurs beat Aston Villa by 2-0, courtesy of Harry Kane and Vinicius, who came in to replace the injured Heung-min Son. Not much to talk about here. A very disciplined game, a disciplined performance by Tottenham. Of course, their manager is Jose Mourinho, so it's always going to be kind of robotic, drilled instructions, drilled performances, but they got the job done today against an Aston Villa side that is continuing to just fall down the table. But they're not going to get relegated, so they can kind of, take some solace from that. But they did have such a promising start to the season that it is a bit disappointing to see them just fall down the table like this. Spurs, however, they're trying to get back up the table, but they're not really a convincing side, especially with the injury to Heung-min Son. A lot of things are going to have to go through Harry Kane. Maybe even Lucas Moura and Lamela are going to have to put in more. But who knows? With Jose Mourinho, one game he could ask his players to attack, and the next game he can ask them to sit back. So it really just depends on his, kind of mood and attitude that day on how he wants to set up his team. But nonetheless, Spurs got the 2-0 victory against Aston Villa, and that kind of just sums up, the Premier League for this weekend. This weekend was, mostly FA Cup. With a bit of Premier League, I think those were the outstanding games that were remaining. Some teams had games in hand, so I think those were just being played over this weekend. But now this week is the international break, so we get to see international teams in action. And next week, we'll be able to see the Premier League return. We'll be able to see European competition return. And hopefully, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, I'm going to be bringing content. I'm going to be talking about a host of different things. I'm going to be talking about a lot of things, varying from teams' chances in the Champions League to how the table is going to finish to what next season teams have to do in order to get, into better positions. Manchester City finishing first place doesn't mean that they don't need more help in, certain areas of the field. So a lot of discussion like that. I just want to make this something that everyone can interact with and everyone can have their own say on. But thank you so much either way. That's going to do it for this episode of the 4545 podcast. Like, comment, subscribe as always. Share this with your friends. Share this with your family. Share this with passionate fans who love this game as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. Peace. This is after I just recorded. Just wanted to say I'm sorry if I kind of seemed out of it. I'm struggling with allergies and it kind of kicked my ass. So hopefully the video quality was great. Hopefully the topic of discussions were great. But I promise for the next, couple episodes and episodes further out, I'll try and make sure I'm at 100%. But I felt I owed it to, subscribers and everybody who watches this channel, just to come out with, another video, because it has been a week. It's been a little too long for my liking. And hopefully, the standards that I want to set, it's been too long for your liking. So thank you once again. Just wanted to say that, and thanks for enjoying the video. Please share this video so we can grow this channel and share it amongst, passionate fans. Thank you so much. Peace.